All right, Dan. Another morning, another podcast here. Today was an awesome episode, man. We made a plan to dive into backpack hunting, and I think we covered it. And there's some great backpacking tips, but we kind of went down the rabbit hole of like the mental side of backpacking and hunting as well.
Yeah, it's just there's so many things that you have to have dialed that don't have anything to do with hunting to have a successful hunt with back home and work and just life. And so yeah, managing life and managing your mental mindset is kind of the rabbit trail that we went down. And you just can never predict what we're going to talk about on this podcast. And that's what I love so much about it. These are just great conversations. And I know the listeners are going to, find the same.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we set out to talk about backpacking, and at some point in the conversation, we were talking about being husbands and fathers and sitting on the couch and being productive and working on cars. So, yeah, it really took a turn there, but it was a great conversation.
Yep.
Yeah, good. Well, I want to thank our sponsor for today's show. I want to thank Juniper Mountain Coffee. These guys are so dialed on their roast, Dan. Like, I am really enjoying their coffee. It's such top notch. It's just it's not the run of the mill coffee. These guys are so passionate about their roasts.
Yeah, it's coffee that I don't usually drink coffee every single day, but it's coffee that I enjoy drinking every day. And it's quality coffee, and these guys, they travel down to Panama and they have relationships with growers and do a direct grower to distributor relationship. And it's pretty cool in what they're doing. I haven't heard of anybody else that's doing exactly what they're doing. And to top it off, they're Western hunters, and they hunt elk, and they love the Western lifestyle. And so it's so cool to be partnered with a company that's so like-minded with us here at Eastmans.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just a great partnership and relationship, and yeah, I'm getting to know these guys even more through stories through Brandon, talking with these guys and relationships, and then yeah, I can't wait to meet them personally or get them on the podcast. But yeah, they're just great salt of the earth, like hardworking guys, small company, family owned and operated, father and son, I think that manage the majority of it. But just a great company that takes a ton of pride in their roasts, and now they are going to be coming out with some instant. I'm hoping we have it for season, but be on the lookout for that. And they do have like single serving cold brew cans. So I ordered some up. They haven't showed up yet, but I can't wait to try that as well.
Yeah. No, the single serves in the backcountry supposed to be out by the end of the year. Hopefully, we have some tester samples here this fall. I know Brandon, he was talking about going and buying some like bags off Amazon and then taking Juniper Mountain Coffee and then putting it in these little single serve bags, and so you can make your own single serve bags. But that's how excited he is to have this stuff in the backcountry this year.
I think
So yeah.
I think I'll take a page out of his book, man. I think it's a great idea. And when you get hooked on a good roast or quality coffee, like the other stuff just doesn't cut it. So yeah, he's getting single serve steep bags, and then he can fill those with the Juniper Mountain Coffee and then steep them in his coffee, so then he can have his quality coffee in the backcountry. And he said he got those bags. He got like 100 of them for $1 or whatever he got on Amazon or whatever. But I think that's a good idea until we see the single serving. So I think I'll take a page out of his book.
Yep, same here.
Yep. Well, thanks again to Juniper Mountain, their support of the podcast. We really appreciate it. Go check out their coffee roast, guys. They got a couple different to choose from, or 3 different roasts to choose from. I really like the Trail Boss, and then is it the Camp Cook, Dan? What's that other one I like?
Yep, Camp Cook. Yep.
Yeah, Camp Cook. So go check these guys out. Go check out their website. Let's give them some support. And yeah, thanks again to those guys.
Heck yeah. Well, should we jump in and do another one? These are flying by.
Yeah, let's jump in for sure. And just remember to support everything we do here at Eastmans. Dan and I have been getting a ton of writing projects for Eastmans Bowhunting Journal, Eastmans Hunting Journal, which has been really fun. The new Beyond the Grids are hitting. Dan's amazing hunt for his biggest bull is out. By the time this releases, the hunt for his giant wide Montana 7 is out. They're just great videos, and then soon to follow will be my Nevada high country hunt, which I'm really excited to see the edit for that one. So check that out, and then check out our mule deer course as well.
So many good things here at Eastman's, and don't forget about the magazine. As Brian said, we're always writing, and subscribe to EBJ and EHJ. That helps us out too. And yeah, you find content that you won't find anywhere else, and that's in our written articles. So that's pretty fun stuff too.
100%. So, all right, thanks, buddy. Let's get into this podcast.
Sounds good. Thanks, man.
Well, good morning, Dan. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Well, now you can probably see me on YouTube. Lindsay hooked me up with a light, so it's not quite so dark here in my recording room.
Oh, yeah. Actually, she was saying, hey, you need to get a light in your office. I was like, oh, yeah. So that's what I forgot this morning. But, yeah, you're all lit up perfectly.
Yeah, it's working pretty good, really. If we can just keep dialing it in, but that way we can put the videos on YouTube as well. I don't listen to many podcasts on YouTube, but a lot of guys do, and it is fun to like see the reaction or see guys talking. So if you're listening to this podcast, you can also check us out on YouTube. Lindsay does a great job of uploading those things.
Heck yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
we're getting better all the time and working on our production quality. It's amazing how many podcasts we have rolling now, and it's a full-time job for somebody to work the video portion of the podcast.
Yeah, I see how hard everybody's working. Well, and then, I edit this podcast and then Eastman's Elevated, but like you say, we have so many now that it's keeping everybody in the office pretty busy just getting those things out each and every week.
Yep.
Yep. Well, good. Sure was good to see you Monday record that live one. Man, looks like you're getting ready for season, huh?
Yeah. Just, coming down to the wire, and what are we out? 2 weeks out? 3 weeks out?
Mm-hmm.
Actually have an antelope tag in my pocket this year, and yeah, I'm stoked about that. I don't know, the last 3 years I've just been on a dry streak. You know how Wyoming is giving out antelope tags, and being a non-resident now, it's not an easy thing just to get a 900 tag in Montana anymore as a non-resident.
Oh, I see. So, yeah, non-resident in Montana, resident in Wyoming. So, Wyoming must have blanked you again this year?
Yeah, I got a second choice tag because I thought, just this year, I feel like it's important to have a tag in your pocket. It doesn't matter where it is, because the growing season in some of these areas that didn't get decimated by the winter kill are going to produce good bucks. And I've been seeing some nice antelope in places that you wouldn't normally. So, yeah, I don't expect too much out of that hunt, but I'm going to go over there early and check it out early before the opener, probably around the 10th or 12th or something. And then if there's anything, good over there, if there's some numbers over there, I'll go and see what I can do on opening day. But it's an area that, it's not a very big area, and there's a ton of rifle tags, so it's not even, worth going over there later. But there could be something good that slipped through the cracks last year, and maybe I'll have first crack at it this year with archery.
Yeah, good for you. Yeah, it's fun starting to plan out the logistics of all these hunts and how we're gonna approach them. It's like really have to be good in the planning phase, like figuring out the unit, breaking down the unit, and then figuring out your dates, and then how you're gonna hunt said unit. Because every hunting style or every unit calls for a different hunting style, and so. A lot of these units or a lot of these early season hunts, of course, probably not antelope, but a lot of them for me, I incorporate like backpacking into them. Like backpacking is such a useful skill for out west, and not only for these extended hunts like high country mule deer where I'll go in a week at a time or even longer, up to 10 days at a time with everything on my back, but it also comes in useful for roaded areas to be able to go and do an overnight or a 2-dayer. And I find with elk too, when I backpack into a spot, it's really tough to stay into elk for 7 days straight. Like I end up being pretty mobile, but backpacking is such a useful tool for out west, and just having the knowledge and experience and the confidence to be able to go backpack in these units, I think gives me a huge advantage.
Yeah, and it's something that I know I take for granted because I started doing it a long time ago, and so I don't even think about it too much anymore. And the details, the detail oriented that you have to be to make it work, and you have to, I mean, you got to bring your gear, and you got to have good gear, and you don't want stuff that's too heavy. And we're always cutting weight where we can, of course, ounce counting or whatever, but uh, and then figuring out that ratio of what you can carry, how far without gassing out, being destroyed the next day. It goes on and on and on. But yeah, getting that dialed is probably, uh, one of the biggest factors that's going to allow you to be successful on your hunts as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a skill set. I remember like the first time. Well, I used to backpack as a kid, so when we hunted in Washington, and hunting wasn't my primary focus. It was more wrestling, and then I would hunt with my dad to kind of spend time with him or time with the family. But my dad was a wild man in his 30s, and so he'd backpack us into these spots. Him and his brother Jay, which is my uncle, those two brothers would hunt really hard in Washington for elk and for deer, and the seasons were so short, and I loved going. This is like how I cut my teeth hunting. But we were backpack hunting, if you could call it that. Like the skill set wasn't there. It was like back in the olden days, So we had the old framed packs, and I was just a kid, and then man, you talk about lack of nutrition. Like, oh my gosh, I think we'd pack in Cokes to drink. Like, it wasn't like, wouldn't hardly pack in water, and then, ding dongs and ho hos and Twinkies and like, just a pack full of sugary crap, to go in there and go for days, and then, would be fairly heavy. But I remember some of the memories of getting back into these places in Washington where, we'd get back towards the Crest Trail, and there was, all these stories from the days from Dad and his brother killing good blacktails in there and elk in there, and they had all these different hunts, the meadows and the lake and the beaver bill. They had all these nicknames for everything, but we would backpack in there. And yeah, it was like a great way to be introduced into backpacking, even though I didn't learn much. And so then I moved to Montana, and the first season, I really wanted to kill a bull, of course, and so I thought I'd put all my backpacking knowledge, which was none, to use, And so here I get the old frame pack, and man, I had so much crap, Dan. I had eggs in like this container where eggs wouldn't break, and bacon, and like, just all this stuff I didn't need. I was so heavy, I could hardly make it into where I wanted to go. I was probably like 60 or 70 pounds for like a 3-day hunt. And I remember, I packed for a few hours, taking breaks and here and there, and then ended up sleeping up on the mountain. And man, I just had like this Walmart sleeping bag, and this was like for rifle season opener. I remember I got so cold that I was dreaming of death in my sleeping bag. I finally had to get up and make a fire, and I was just a kid, just not much backcountry savvy or anything, But I did backpack, and I did kill a bull on that trip, surprisingly enough. I don't think I had plenty to eat with my eggs and bacon and everything, but it is like such a progression to like learn the gear you need and then the skills you need. But yeah, back then I didn't have any of that.
It's kind of like the same for me. When I was young, my dad and brother, we didn't really do too much for backpacking. My dad just wasn't like a backpack hunter. But being in Boy Scouts is where I kind of got my foundation. And like back then, like we did real stuff, like real, like you had to have some grit if you were going to go hike 50 miles through the Bob Marshall. And then we would do stuff like that and camp. And even still, I mean, we were set up for success in scouts doing that, but still the gear back then is not even anything close to what it is now. And, yeah, but we had like peanut butter and jellies, like that's what we brought back there, and maybe granola bars. And I don't think we ever had like mountain houses and Boy Scouts. Actually, I think we did. We started using mountain houses, and it was like such a big deal. Like, whoa, a full meal in the backcountry. This is going to be awesome. And they were expensive back then, for the time. But it was like wow, you have mountain houses on this hunt? Like, you must be doing good. Like, that's pretty awesome. And so I remember that. But yeah, those old framed packs. And I remember when it was like a big deal to get like a Cabela's meat pack, like the old framed meat packing pack. And then I just got one of those packs, and then I would lash like my gear, like put all my gear in a bag, like a sack, and then lash it to that pack frame. And that's how I'd pack my camp in. And, then I would, for like a day hunt, I would have like a little fanny pack or like something very small for like my actual hunting pack. And then if I was going to pack meat, I had to go back to camp and get my framed pack.
Yeah, I was like a gypsy with stuff tied onto my pack, moving around, and just no knowledge of how to put stuff in a pack, or no knowledge of any of that. But you talk about toughness and grit, you still had to have it, and those guys were tough. Like my dad's generation, hunting in flannel and jeans, and then it was Washington, so it rained a bunch, and then so you had like the deadliest catch Helly Hansen rain gear that didn't breathe. It was like wearing rubber on there. That was what you had to keep dry. And I think you got wetter in that stuff just from the sweat than you did like the rain that it blocked. But that generation, then you go to my grandpa's generation, you talk about toughness and grit, and it still applies. Like even in our modern day and age, like we get all the gear for it, all the knowledge is out there. Like we're so much better set up to backpack hunt. But it still takes grit, it still takes toughness, and then you have to want it. Like I remember hunting Colorado, it was like maybe 2 years ago or so, and man, we show up to the trailhead. I'm going in with my other buddy Dan Hevern, and man, we pull in and get there in the middle of the night, and it's just pouring down rain, and so we set up the teepee, and we get soaking wet just trying to set it up and get our gear inside to get a night's sleep. And we sleep and we wake up at daybreak, and it's still pouring at daybreak. So we're having to put on all our rain gear, and I actually had rain pants in my bag, which I hate rain pants. I'm never bringing them again. I hate hiking in them. I hate packing them everywhere. Like I'm just not a rain pant guy. But when it's pouring down rain, it is nice to have a suit that keeps you waterproof. And so, gosh, we go hiking in, and then, the teepee's soaking wet, all our gear's soaking wet. So I know I've got 10 pounds of water just on my gear and pack that I'm packing in, so we're heavier, and then it's high elevation. So, we're hunting around 12,000 feet. And so, I live at 5,000 or 6,000 feet. So coming to that, like I'm dealing with the altitude, we're soaking wet. We wake up at 5 in the morning and start backpacking in. And you talk about grit. Like, oh my gosh, I think we backpacked for like 8 or 9 hours that day, just exhausted to make it into where we're going to camp. And that's just the start of the hunt. So it's like a prerequisite is always going to be grit and toughness on all these hunts, no matter what generation you come from.
Yeah, you got to be willing to suffer. And I think, is it weird for me to say that I like suffering because I like to see what I made? And we've talked about this before, I guess, in the past, but there's something about it. Like if I know, if I haven't suffered, it means that I'm not like truly testing myself. It's not, I'm not truly building any character, because when you suffer, it gives you new perspective. It gives you, that mental toughness that you need to take your hunting skill set to the next level. And so like when you're saying what you just said, like you're suffering, and that's good for a guy. Like a guy needs to suffer a little bit because it makes you a better hunter and a better person.
Oh, 100%, man. You're speaking my language. Yeah, it's like it's all about perspective, right? And it's the way you look at it. And yeah, I know that the more I put into a hunt, or the more I suffer, or the more challenges I have to face, the more that hunt is going to mean to me. And that, just like you said, like you stated, like more character building, more toughness, like that at the core of our success, that's what it is. It's grit, it's being able to suffer, and it's being able to put a smile on your face and recover the next day and still go hard. But I'm the same way, Dan. Like I love a huge part of my hunting is the adventure part of it. And if I'm hunting from a truck or if I'm hunting a mile from the road, I'm not getting that sense of adventure that I'm yearning for, that I want. And so it is just perspective, like the way you look at it. But I feel the same way, man. I want to put everything into a hunt and grind and kill a buck on the last day rather than an easy one on the first day. Like we had, hiking in that Colorado hunt. We were hiking in the rain, we're soaking wet, sweat dripping down, and I stopped to take a break on the trail, and I'm just a few paces in front of Dan, and I look up to my right, and there's a giant buck bedded in this aspen grove, like right up above us, like right there. And he's dang near bow range, right where he's at. Now, you think I'd just get out my bow and shoot that thing and be done with my hunt on the day we're hiking in? There's no way. Like, I want to go and suffer. I can have a good shooter buck in front of me and I can have one 5 miles away, and I'll choose the one 5 miles away because he's tougher to kill and I got more into it. And it's just wired in my brain that way. But yeah, I think that's the key for everybody. It's like during your training, during your hunting, like man, just really change your mindset to embrace the grind and embrace the pain, be able to smile through it. Like when you're I love like Jocko's saying, like there's some clips of Jocko that says, "Oh, you're not finding deer? Good. That means you've got to go further and look harder. Oh, weather's bad? Good. It'll make you tougher for the next hunt or to persevere through it. Like you'll be better." It's like trying to look at these challenges and always say good and like look at the silver lining or look at the good in a situation. And really these hunts, we make these plans for them. They never go as planned, man. I never get there, and it's like, read the script. I get in the basin, I think there's a giant buck. I get up there, I arrow him, I'm a hero. No. Like the way it goes for me is I might get in there and there's a giant buck, and then I miss him or I mess up the stock, and now I've got to go find another one, and now I'm 10 days into the hunt, and I'm on plan C, D, or E trying to find a buck, and I grind it out and finally arrow a buck, and it means the world to me. But that's how successful hunts go to me. Very rarely do I kill something in the first couple days, or does it go as planned.
And when you find success like that and you suffered for a few days, that memory is going to be nothing of, you suffering. That memory, it's going to be gone. The suffering doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's the small part of it that doesn't matter in the end. What you're going to remember is how you persevered, how, you moved that last and final move that got you into bow range and arrowed that buck. Like that's what you remember. And so suffering, it doesn't matter. It's nothing and it doesn't matter. And I watch, I don't know if you've ever seen the series Alone. It's a survival series. I've watched all of them with my wife, and these guys and gals are out there and they're suffering for 90 days. Some of the guys that are winning it 3 months, and a lot of the people that don't make it, whether it's 10 days or 3 weeks or a month, which is a long time, but a lot of them, like they break down mentally to the fact that like they've been away from home for so long. And while it is a long time, like a month is nothing. That's just like the shortest amount, a blip in the radar in your lifetime or even a year. It's a twelfth of a year. That's nothing. And I'm not saying I could go out there and win alone. I'm not saying that at all. But it's just amazing. And I watch these people and I learn from it mentally, like what you're going through. And not that I can relate because I've never lived out, alone for a month. We go out and we hunt for 7 or maybe 10 days and have food with us. But it's just amazing what the human mind can endure if you have the right mindset and you have those, you conclude your sentences with good, or you think, you stay positive and you think of the bright side of every situation. And you say, man, 2 months out of the course of a year or 5 years or my life or the duration that I've been with my wife or girlfriend is nothing. I have a chance to win $500,000. And so it's just amazing. And I see these people quit after 10 days, and you're like, man, like, I just have a different perspective, I guess, but I'm learning things all the time, especially when it comes to your mental game from people. And I just want to try to get tougher and tougher and better, and a better mental perspective. And then, man, if you have that perspective, like you're saying, you can focus on what's really important on that hunt, what you really need to get done, and the little things that you really need to be successful at to ultimately punch in your tag. And that ultimately, I think, Brian, is why myself and you are so successful in what we do, is because it's our mindset on the big picture.
Oh, 100%, man. You're so spot on. I love that show alone. In fact, I watched an episode last night with my wife. And,
Oh, nice.
And man, you're so right. Like when they break mentally. You know, there are some that break physically and have to get tapped out, but you almost see the ones that break physically are using that as an excuse to break as well a lot of times, you know. And you're right. It's that mindset. And on a hunt, it's that mindset, that grit, that toughness, that persevering, and I think going through these tough hunts or going through challenging endeavors, like that's what builds those small layers of mental toughness on, because mental toughness is really slippery. Like we all want it, and we know that being mentally tough or mentally strong is going to build our resolve, and in the end, that's what's going to make us successful, is just our mindset, our perspective. And I know on hunts, when I come home empty-handed, or when it doesn't work out, or like in my earlier years, I would break mentally. Like I've never been physically broken where my body can't take another step. Like I've been worn down, but what breaks on you is your mind, you know, and a lot of things can break your mind, like all the effort that you're putting into the hunt, or not finding animals, or it's really easy. Like you can almost come up with an excuse on every hunt why you didn't fill out or why you weren't successful. And some of them are legit reasons. I get that. But it's really easy in your brain to like cook up these excuses, you know. Oh, the weather's bad. I can't find any animals. Oh, there's so many hunters around that I just can't find a shooter buck. I just run into guys everywhere. Like I'm just going to throw in the towel. Like there's all these reasons why you can quit, and then you can use that as an excuse to protect your ego, and then go home with your head held high and go, oh yeah, there's no animals in that unit. And sometimes these are legit reasons. I get that. But if you build like this mental resolve and this mental toughness to never make an excuse and to always give it your full effort, even if I come home after a 10-day hunt and I have given my all on that hunt and I've pushed it to the very last hour of the very last day, I feel okay about things. Like I know that I gave it full effort. I didn't come out successful. It wasn't in the cards, but I did everything in my power to try to be successful. And so this mental toughness, this resolve, is quite possibly the most important thing that you can gain. And so like I get a lot from my training, running in the heat right now, making myself do my workouts, but really the toughest thing I do, and I've heard people say that hunts shouldn't be the toughest thing that you do, and I disagree. Like these hunts is where I leave everything on the field. And these hunts is not just one day of exertion or one mountain climb. It's day after day after day. And I know I'm going to face all these challenges, and I'm going to have to figure out a solution to them. I'm going to have to adapt and continue to push forward. But after I do that, it adds like another layer or another callus of mental toughness. And as I keep adding these small layers from my training, from these tough hunts, from, you know, everything in life that I do, even hard times in life with family being sick or with financial problems, whatever the case is, like I'm adding these layers of mental toughness onto myself. So then when I get on a tough hunt, I can rely upon that. I know I'll have the resolve. I know I can finish. So I know it's slippery to gain mental toughness, but it's quite possibly like the best thing you can do for yourself and your future hunting.
Absolutely. I mean, beautifully said there. That's what it boils down to. And what really resonated with me with that last sequence there is that I go into every single one of my hunts knowing I'm going to give it my all, and putting it all on the table. And if I go home empty, that's hunting. I mean, ultimately, nothing's guaranteed, and I'm going to feel good about it because I did everything in my power to hunt as efficiently as I possibly could, and hunted like it was my last hunt. And then you leave with no regrets. And the reason why I find that so important too is I've been on the other side of that when I was a kid, and just growing up, I would hunt, and then I would be like, man, I could have put in a little more effort this season to get an elk, and I didn't, and I regretted it. I'm thinking about this in like January, and it only took one season of that, like that one time, and I hated that feeling, and I hated the feeling of failure. And so ever since then, I put everything out there, and I hunt like every single hunt is my last. Life is short. It's so precious. You never know. You could be paralyzed, sick. Maybe you can't go on another hunt again. And so I would regret, if something happened to me and I couldn't hunt again, I would regret if, I look back at some of my past hunts and be like, man, I just wish I would have tried harder. And so that's really important to me. That's a huge part of how, or what shaped me as a kid, and how I just view bow hunting as a whole.
Yeah, 100%. I've given in early and gone back to my house with vacation days and going, what am I doing? I still had 3 days to hunt, and here I am at the house. Like, man, you're so spot on. Like, and even as we get experience, there's still gonna be highs and lows to a hunt, and your brain is still gonna play tricks on you. Like, even though I built this resolve and this mental toughness, and I give it all on my hunt, there are times on the hunt where I'm going to be faced with an easy decision and a tough decision. And, I have to continually fight inside my own brain to make that tough decision. Maybe it's a buck that's miles away that I've got to move my camp, and I'll be coming back the middle of the night. And instead of sitting there wondering what's going to happen, I'm going to go give myself a chance and go get over there, and then I'll be coming back in the middle of the night or whatever the case is. But even, I find it like on this last Hawaii hunt, like there's an easy way and a hard way. Like I could take the easy way and just make a little hunt over the hill and do a couple miles in the heat, and it's hot, there's not many sheep around anyways. Like I can make up all these reasons in my head why I shouldn't go, or I can send it all the way down to the ocean and have an 8-mile 10-mile day in the heat. And so it's like, okay, here we go. Like here's my brain playing tricks on me again. Like I've got to send it, I've got to go for it, and go down and go try to find a sheep, and it ends up working out in the end. And so you're going to be faced with all these decisions on your hunt to take the easy way or take the hard way, and you just have to continually like take the hard way or make the tough decision.
Absolutely. It seems like the hard way is usually the right way. And I know it can be difficult too. I just want to disclose as well. I mean, there's so many things that are pulling at a guy when he's out there hunting, back home, on feeling the need to get back home, and whether that's your work or your wife, or friends or family, or there's always something that's going to try to like pull you back home, or you're going to have the need or the feeling that you need to get out of there, or come up with those excuses to quit early. And you've written some articles about this before, Brian, on, making sure everything is good on the home front before you head out. And you're a business owner, and so making sure everything is good to go, and you can feel good about going out of cell signal, knowing that when you get back, your whole project is not going to be grenaded. And so, prepping for that is huge. It allows you to have that mental toughness that you need through the hunt, and having a supporting wife. That's huge too. And I've seen it with guys, and, their wife is tugging at them every day. I miss you. When are you going to come home? And, and that can wear on a guy. And before you know it, you can find yourself quitting early and going home. And so, having a supporting wife that's just as important as having, a quality bow that's accurate. I mean, it's super important.
Oh man, you bring up such a good point, Dan. Like, yeah, like it has to be good on the home front. Like your brain is going to play tricks on you back there. And I've seen more guys broken by worrying about problems they have back home or with, and back there, like, you realize how important your wife and your kids are, and all of a sudden, instantly, you want to get back home and prove it to them, or you want to show them, like, man, I got to make a change. And so you're so right, like, taking care of everything before you leave as much as you can. And there's going to be things that pop up, and also, like, spending that quality time with your wife. Like, I know, a vacation for me is not sitting on the beach or is not going to a warm place, but that's the vacation that my wife and kids like. And so in the off season, I have to make sure that I'm spending that quality time with them, that I'm taking them on adventures they want to go on, and then, like, really engaged in the evenings and for dinner, and really make sure that I'm being the best husband and dad I can be. So when it comes my time to disappear in the mountains, I know I have this support system behind me. And I've got, my wife's so well trained now where she almost expects me to extend my hunt a couple days rather than come home early. Like, she
Yeah.
knows that the only way I'm coming home early is if I've arrowed a buck or something like that. But, really building this support system and having these conversations with your loved ones and saying, this is my 10 days for this hunt, and I am going to give it my all. I'm not going to be back early, and I need to have a clear head. When I'm up in the mountains, I think about you, I think about the kids, so, like, if you have a problem and call me with the problem, like, it's going to mess with my head for the next couple days because I'm alone in the mountains by myself. And just realizing, just, like, I think it's such an important piece that you bring up here, Dan, is like, that's probably what's going to end your hunt early, is your love for your family, and something goes on at your house, or you're thinking about your wife, or the hunting isn't good and you think, what am I doing up here? So that's like a big part of that mental resolve, is taking care of things before you leave, making sure that you're prepping your loved ones, and then when you're back there, not letting your brain play tricks on you. Like, you are going to gain perspective back there, and it will make you a better husband and father, but that's not coming home early. That's, like, dealing with things that you got to deal with, making sure you check in, or whatever the case is. But just don't let your mind play those tricks on you where you give in early after you've set all these vacation days and made all this prep. Like, just remember, this is what you've been waiting for all year long, is to go on this hunt.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's, of course, there's always, emergencies that can happen, and, things that are going to pull you from hunts early. But, as a whole, and when you think about it, 95% of the time, nothing is important enough to make you come home. Usually it's a mental thing. And usually, hopefully you don't have, a wife that tries to guilt trip you in being gone. I've seen it all hunting with cameramen and guys over the years, and it can be incredibly tough. And so you bring up just such an excellent point with just being present when you're home, and be the best father and husband that you can be when you're home is so important. That's a huge priority. And sometimes I struggle with that. Just because I'm the type of person that I have so many irons in the fire with work and projects at the house, and I feel like I need to get, certain things done at the house outside before, I go hunting, and I'm basically, my fall is in the woods and not around the house very much. And so over the years, I've kind of refined and have gotten better and really paid more attention to some of those aspects of being home and being present and making sure, my wife is fulfilled in the time with me. And so it's a balance, and you're not, it's hard to master, and it takes some time. But if you have the mindset that you feel like you can improve on something, or you want to get better, I'm not a know-it-all. I'm not, somebody that, can't take direction. And so as long as you have that mindset, you can get through anything, and you can make anything work, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, 100%. I think, it is tough to master, and it is an evolution, where, it's something that you work on and continually get better and improve at. And, you just bring up a good, like a good point of being present. Like so much of life, it's so tough to be present in all aspects of life. Like we're always thinking about the past or the future, or there's emotions tied to it like guilt and it's really tough to live in the present moment. And that goes for being at your house and being with your wife is like, not thinking about the problems you had at work or not bringing that work home with you. And, like you're a really fun guy to hang out with and so am I, but I have to be that guy at my house too. I can't walk around and be stressed out. My kids are going to get nothing from that. And I'm just like an angry dad that like snaps at things, because have problems at work. So it's so tough to be present. And I think working hard to be in that present moment, is like a skill. And I have to work hard on a hunt to be in that present moment as well. It's really easy to slip into my life and be thinking about things. And not that I don't want to think or gain perspective back there, but it's really tough to like just be fully engaged in the hunt and not be thinking about anything that's going on at the house or at home, knowing that things are taken care of there. But I think it's like a practice that we all need to get better at is just living in the present moment. When I'm on a run, don't be thinking about the problems I'm on or the problems I have or what I got to take care of when I'm done. Just be there on the run and focus on the footfalls and pushing myself and listening to the music or whatever it is. Just trying hard not to be inside my own head or to be negative. But I think it's like this practice of working hard to be in the present moment.
And stuff like that mentally, that's so good for you, those escapes. And it, when you're running or if you're doing, some sort of exercise or an escape like that is just, it's good for the mind, it's good for the body. And that's exactly, what we need in a fast-paced lifestyle that we all live in 2023. It's crazy out there and so much going on. And those resets like that, kind of what you're describing, is that gives you that balance. And not only on the home front, but as a person. So if there's something that, for me, my escape too is working on cars. I mean, that sounds crazy, but I love classic Mopars and I love building things and it's an escape. That's what it is for me. And, working out too is, I don't run as much probably, but, yeah, everybody's got to have a healthy escape. And I think that's good for any red-blooded American male. I really do.
100%, man. We're meant to keep busy, We're meant to have goals. We're meant to be driven, And so, man, I'm with you. It's like here at the house, like, you think, when I'm really tired or really worn out, I'm thinking like, man, it'd be nice to sit on the couch today. But then you actually sit on the couch and you feel like crap, It's like the worst thing for your body, the worst thing for your mind. And so, like, you have to rest and recover. And I do, like, I'll sit down with the wife for an hour at night or maybe even an hour and a half at night, and we'll watch a show together, spend some time together, and that's kind of my relax. But like as far as like having a Saturday where I don't do anything or I sit and watch football, never. Like I'll feel worse.
Yeah.
Like I need to keep active, and so there's always something to be doing, and it doesn't have to be this huge task where you just grind yourself into the ground to make yourself feel good. But on a Saturday, yeah, man, I'm going to get in my runs. I'm going to shoot my bow. I'm going to be, cleaning my garage. I'm going to be tinkering with stuff. And like even around my house when I get home at night and it's a full day of work, there's dishes to be done that I know like helps out my wife keeping the house clean, or there's, I can sweep the floor, or I can, there's always like some task that I can be doing, getting my fly gear ready, or I can get out, like a lot of times I can get out fishing for a morning for a couple hours before anybody's up around my house, and then I can come back and I can do my chores and I can mow the lawn, or I can, but there's like I am better when I'm active to continually make myself do something every day. Like it makes me active. And what it also does is like when you're active all the time like that, like you just you have more energy. Like now you're just building this energy into your lifestyle, and you're building this mental resolve to always be doing something, always be tinkering with something. So if it's 5 o'clock, if it's 6 o'clock, there's no way I'm gonna sit down on the couch and watch TV. Like I got stuff to tinker with, I got stuff that I need to work on. There's always something that can be done, and not that I need to work throughout the night, but I've got podcast stuff, I've got there's always something I can be doing that's going to progress my life or make me feel better. And then when I sit down at 7, 8 o'clock, like I feel good, like I've completed the day. I started early in the morning, I was on the job site, and then after the job site, I'm working on my own house. But I think an active lifestyle is really healthy for us male brains too.
It is. It is. And it goes hand in hand with hunting. You're just going to do so much better if you live an active lifestyle like that, mentally and physically. You're going to do better in the woods. You're going to be more successful. Everything hunting wise is going to come easier. It really will. And so, yeah, I encourage anybody listening that if you find yourself that you have downtime, I don't believe you should have downtime. Like, relaxing time, yeah, but you're not, there's no sitting around for a half a day, like you said, watching TV or watching football and I enjoy football. Don't get me wrong. I'll watch a game, but I can only stand so much. And then I got to get out and go do something, whether it's, I got to feel productive, and it could be small. It could be something in the backyard, fixing something or making something better or cleaning up something in the garage or whatever it might be. But if at the end of the day, if I feel like I've been productive and I'm moving and I'm burning some energy, and like that's when I feel good. That's when I know that that was a good day, or good afternoon or whatever, if I feel productive and stay moving. So maybe that's a portion that we've never realized in the past on how we're wired helps us be successful in the mountains. I truly believe that, like just that activeness.
I think you're onto something too, Dan.
Yeah.
Well, and to circle back around, we kind of make a plan for these podcasts, and we want them different, each and every one to be different and give you guys information to help make you better Western hunters. And so we've gone down a bit of a rabbit hole into mental toughness and things, but we started talking about backpack hunting. So I think backpack hunting is such a useful tool that if you want to be consistently successful, you have to master. It's just like a way to separate yourself from the crowds, to get back further, to find your own hunting area, to find these animals that grow to maturity. And I think backpacking is a necessary skill, and not that you have to go backpack for 10 days. So I think you work your way into this. I think you plan scouting trips, and you can do a quick overnight or a 2-day trip. And just realize it's like tougher than you dream up in your own brain. Like it's gonna be tough. It's gonna test your resolve. So like figure out your gear. And we've talked about gear before, but really try to be a minimalist. Like I know me for my pack weight, even packing a spotting scope, if I'm going in for a 7 to 10 day, I want to be under 45 pounds. And realistically, I want to be low 40s. Now, that's not counting my binos or my bow, because I'm going to carry those and I'm going to wear my binos. But that's pretty much everything in my pack. So, really dial in your tent, your sleeping pad, your sleeping bag, and then dialing in water carrying capabilities. Like you need to be able to carry more water than 32 ounces. So they have 100-ounce bladders that are great. I don't really like to drink mine as I walk. I like to stop and then drink. And also it gets warm in the tube and kind of tastes like plastic. But they have man, I have this 100-ounce bladder that I absolutely love. That's an insulated 100-ounce bladder. So on these hot weather hunts, I always have cold water, and I love that thing. And I've also, my 32-ounce, like those Nalgene bottles or whatever, I also found like one that's made, it's like Microlite, I think, that's an insulated 32-ounce bottle that I can have cold water in there. And it adds a few ounces, but the comfort of it really helps me out. So I want to have water carrying capabilities, but really dial in your system and your comfortability of like being able to go on an overnight or on a 2-day and chasing elk with a backpack on your back. And a lot of times I'm ditching the scope. I'm going for 2-3 days, and I just carry carry the bare minimum. And I can usually get away with 30 pounds or maybe a touch over 30. And then I can run with these elk and travel a ton of country and then just kind of end up camping wherever I am. And what it does is it actually saves energy where you're not walking back and forth to camp. You always have your camp on your back and you get comfortable with hunting it. But these are such necessary skills in today's day and age to separate yourself from the competition.
Yeah, and it seems like even nowadays, kind of going off of what you said, like you have to be so mobile, especially elk hunting, and a lot of it nowadays is hunter pressure. Yeah, elk move around a lot, and elk can cover some ridiculous amounts of country in one night, but separating yourself from hunter pressure and finding elk after they move is a huge task in itself. So yeah, the lighter the better. Going off of kind of your backpack weights, I mean, this is so important. If you're over 42 pounds, it's going to be hard to sustain any sort of endurance the following day if you're carrying 47, 48 pounds more than a couple miles to get in or out of somewhere. I like to get 37 pounds on my pack is kind of what I shoot for. And that's running a little light. That's running with no water, like knowing I have a good water source in there and maybe a little light on food. But I try to cut everything that I can to get to that 37 to 38 pounds, and 41, 42 is acceptable. And that's usually about what I run as well. But we really dive into this too on our mule deer course. I mean, we talk about gear, we talk about backpacks and different, aspects of what is going to really set your system over the top weight wise. And so it's a science, count your ounces and be really selective on our packs. And, the Everly stock packs that we use, they're light as it is, and they've come a long ways over the years, getting lighter and lighter and lighter. And, with this Vapor series, I know we've both taken advantage of this with these new packs they have coming out. But if you're not counting ounces, then you're kind of missing the game, and you're working harder than you probably have to.
Yeah, 100%, man. That weight on your back is such exertion, and that's what wears you out. Like that's the difference. And when you backpack a lot, you learn that. And man, you try to go as light as you can. And I'm like you, Dan, man. I love to be under 40, or I love to be, like I can be 35 pounds for a quick rip, a 3, 4, 5 day, or and man, that's money. I just know I can travel so many miles, like having that light pack. So yeah, really work hard to, like you need some stuff in the backcountry, but there's a lot that you don't need. Like I see guys packing chairs in and packing, and that stuff's great for comfort. It's just more weight on your back. So you have to get really good at like realizing what's important to you. Like sleeping pad, I'll bring in a touch heavier sleeping pad because I know I'll get good sleep at night and I won't be rolling around where my hip hurts or my shoulder hurts. So I'll take another half a pound in my pad to make sure that I get a good night's sleep. Or there's just like there's decisions that you'll have to make with your gear, and you'll be deciding between comfort and between weight and what's important to you. But yeah, really dial that system in. And then once you get it dialed in, like you can go attack big country and big wildernesses. The other thing you can do is like, man, roaded country. Like I've got this mountain range next to me that is one of the most popular mountain ranges to go hunt elk on planet Earth. Like there's so many guys that come to it, and even like local guys around town will send newbies to this mountain range and go, yeah, go to this mountain range. Like that's what they tell people and where they tell people to go. But let me tell you, it is insane hunting there. They have a huge population of elk in there, and it's all roaded country. Like there's roads throughout. And so a lot of guys are using these roads and bugling off roads, and they're just dipping their toes into the backcountry where they're walking a mile in and then walking a mile out. Like, man, this is where my backpacking strategy really comes into play, where I can go for an overnight or a 2-3 dayer, and I can get to the remote stretches of this unit, and that's where those elk are refuging at. And I get into some insane hunting in one of the most popular mountain ranges in Montana or in the West, really. And I'm able, through backpacking, I'm able to separate myself from the competition and get back to these remote stretches where these animals refuge. And so building this skill set and this confidence with it where I can just, I can be truck camping and all of a sudden I can just throw in everything I need for an overnight or a 2-day and go check out some of this country where I think these elk are at or these mule deer are at. Like, man, I find some insane hunting that way, just having that backpacking skill set.
Yep. Yep. It just opens a whole another door of just effectiveness that a guy can have if you can separate yourself, for sure. I was thinking about, what are some things that a guy can do to cut weight in his pack? And of course, money can buy all the lightest stuff out there. And it seems like with anything good, optics, the more you spend, the better quality optics you have, for the most part. And the same with gear. Not everybody can afford the best stuff, but if you want to drop $1,000, you can get a really nice lightweight down sleeping bag that's rated for 0 degrees, for sure. But one thing that's hard to cut weight on is food, because food is food is food. You got to fuel the body. And so I'm always looking for the high octane food, like the highest calories I can get that weigh as little as possible. And so when I'm focusing on that, and Brian, I want you to jump in here too, and maybe what are some of your secret weapons when it comes to the food that you bring in the mountains? Like what are you bringing that's giving you the most bang for the buck, that's giving you the most energy when you're back in there, but weighing very little? For me, I know if you've listened before or seen any of our stuff before, I like my sunflower seeds, the roasted sunflower kernels. Pound to energy ratio, the sunflower kernel is very high in fat, and it's pretty light. They're roasted. It's pretty light. And so the amount of calories that you get from a relatively small serving is pretty wild. And the fat, it's good fat, and it's energy that sticks with you. And that's what you need for that endurance back there. But that's just one of the things. And then another thing, and once again, I'm thinking about quality food, quality nutrition, and energy. And so some of the best superfood that a person can eat on the planet are sardines, kippered snacks, herring, those little fish. And it sounds crazy, and a lot of people are probably be like, "Ew, that's nasty." But for the nutrition that you get out of these little fish with the omega-3s, it's crazy the amount of good things that are in these little tiny fish. And so I always bring, kippered snacks, or sometimes sardines or whatever, some sort of those little fish, or tuna fish. I'll bring those too, because it's good for you too, those tuna packets with crackers. But anyway, those are a couple things that, they're super good for you. They don't weigh an incredible amount. Unfortunately, sardines or kipper snacks, they come in a aluminum tin, which is weight. But what are some of the things that you look for, Brian, when you look for that high impactful, high energy food?
Yeah, those are great, Dan. Yeah, you're so right. You need the gear that you need, and I think what you do is you try to upgrade like a piece or two of your gear every year that you can save weight. And one of the best places to save weight is in your pack. I see a lot of these packs nowadays that are running 6 to 9 pounds, and really you can run your pack 3 to 6 pounds and save a ton of weight, which is extra food or extra gear that you can bring. But yeah, on the food subject, you're so right, Dan, is you need to get really good at dialing in your food. And you want that high calorie food, high fat food that lasts with you. And you're right, when you weigh that equation for weight, like how much does it weigh per how many calories, and so you're looking for calorie dense food that you can put in your pack. And for me, yeah, I want good nutrition and I want good food that's going to fuel myself. So like nuts are great, and I eat a lot of snacks. I don't eat much for breakfast, so like throughout the day, I'm mostly having snacks where I'm having, and I've got this system. You also have to find food that you like to eat. Like the altitude or high altitude is an appetite suppressant, and you're not going to feel like eating a whole bunch when you exert yourself in the mountains and also when you're at high altitude. And so, like for me, I got to have food that's appetizing that I feel like eating, and it takes just like working your way through it. Like sardines don't work for me because it doesn't feel appetizing in the heat on an early season hunt. Now I agree with you. That is one of the most nutrient dense proteins you can get on the planet, and with the omega-3s and its actual protein, which is so tough to get in the mountains, and the fat, like what a great superfood. But I have to feel like eating it when I'm back there, you know? And so like I kind of work through my system. So a lot of snacks during the day, and I'm going to have nuts and trail mix. I'm going to have jerky. I'm going to do like a salami and string cheese and crackers. I'm going to do I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. Oh, I'll bring in like I love like a croissant or even a cinnamon roll. Like pull a cinnamon roll out of your pack. Like in the morning, your buddies will look at you like they might murder you for your cinnamon roll when you're back in the backcountry. So like I just find this food that I really like. Now, a cinnamon roll does have a little bit of sugar in it, and it's probably not the best superfood. But I'm also burning so many calories and at a calorie deficit back there, and I want good nutritious food that's going to fuel me and last with me, but I also want that food that I feel like eating. And a cinnamon roll is just like having a bar of gold in my pack, like that I know that I have that thing. So I'll bring some of that, like and so I'm just going to pack like these snacks throughout the day that are going to fuel me. And usually what I try to shoot for is I try to shoot for about about 2,000 calories to 2,600 calories a day. Usually my per day weight of my food is going to be in between a pound and a pound and a half. To have enough food to fuel me. And the other thing I do to save weight is if I'm packing in for 6 days, I bring 5 days worth of food, and then on the 6th day, I'll eat my leftovers of all those other days of the stuff that I didn't eat. Now, as far as like meals, I don't eat a lot of the dehydrated meals. I've just eaten so many over the years, and I know like those peaks are real good ones, and I will be eating them this year like on my goat hunt, because that's what we're going to do for meals with the buddy that I'm going with, and I have no problems with it. It'll be fine, and I'll make it. But I like eating food that's good on my system. It doesn't have all the preservatives, all the salt, and so like I make a lot of my own food. So some of my go-tos, I have this granola mix, and so I'll mix granola, powdered milk, and then I'll throw some of my favorite cereal in there, just a little bit of like whatever it is, some Cheerios, some Chex Mix, and then I just add a little water, and then I eat it out of that thing, and it is so calorie dense. Like I can get 1,000 calories, like it's nothing out of that granola, and it tastes good. I don't have to cook. I have it all in a Ziploc, so I don't have any dishes to do or anything like that. So I do that meal. I do a burrito meal where I bring in a tortilla. I bring in like instant rice that I'll cook in my pot. Now I don't add flavors or anything to it, and that instant rice can stick to the bottom, so you really got to stir it, try to cook it on low heat, but I'm dialed on my system. So and then I bring in, like I do a bunch of jerky before season, and I'll cut it in really small pieces. I'll dehydrate peppers, broccoli. I don't stick broccoli in my tortilla mix. That's more for like a rice bowl thing. But I do, I'll make a rice bowl. I'll make a burrito. I have a noodle dish that I do out of Top Ramen and General Tso sauce in a little container. And then I have dehydrated meat with broccoli and with peppers in it. I mix that all together in a Ziploc. And, man, it's just like this bomb meal. And so, I've just got my system dialed over the years when I know what fuels me. I know what I like to eat, and I know like how I run throughout the day with snacks and things. So those are just like a few of my tricks I use with food, or a few of my guidelines that I try to go by.
Yeah, no, those are all good tips. And what kind of my takeaway from when you're reading out your menu, you have some heavy stuff in there, which is fine. But if you bring heavy stuff, you're bringing quality stuff. You're bringing, the salamis and the trail mix. And trail mix is heavy, but it's high energy. It's good, dense food that sticks with you. And so that's important. If you're going to bring heavy stuff, it's got to be quality food, exactly like what you're doing. And even like it, you just proved right there that you can have a really quality meal without, buying a freeze-dried meal. With your rice and your jerky. And that's huge. That you got your protein and your carbs in there, and that's huge. And I do incorporate freeze dried. I do like the Ready Wise and the Peaks. That's all good stuff. But yeah, some of the old freeze dried stuff, the Mountain Houses just wouldn't agree with me. And I've eaten a lot of those, so I try to stay away from them. I mean, they're fine for most guys maybe, but I stay away from most of the other freeze dried stuff. And I want to hear what you think about this too, but you'll see like, in the stores, like freeze dried fruit and freeze dried this and freeze dried that. They weigh nothing, but it's almost like I get done eating a bag of, like, say, freeze-dried mangoes or whatever it is. But it feels like after I'm done with that, I've eaten nothing and it's done nothing for me. And so I don't even bring that stuff anymore because I think it's worthless for, like, high impactful energy, food to bring with you in the mountains. And so I don't even bring it with me anymore. But yeah, like the top ramen, like I love that. And I used to bring that for my dinners. Back in the day, that's all I brought. I was too cheap to buy Mountain Houses, and I was on a budget, and so I would bring a packet of tuna and top ramen, and if I could find a grouse, I would shoot it and put some grouse in there too, and have a great meal for $3 basically. So I did that a lot too, but yeah, it's just so important to refine and cut the ounces where you can. And like I learned this one from Barklow, I believe I saw it from him, but like with the freeze dried stuff, like the packaging weighs a lot, like compared to like the food amount. So you'll actually open those freeze dried meals and then put them into like a lightweight sandwich bag or like a Ziploc bag and cut your ounces that way, and then just cook your freeze dried in your pot, because you have a pot with you, your stove system. And so that right there, if you add up, and I've done it, you add up, 5 or 6 Mountain House containers, and you're packing that stuff out too. Like, that's heavy stuff. These are aluminum bags. That's over a pound right there in a hunt's worth of Mountain House garbage, basically. And so, yeah, any little thing you can do is well worth it. But when it comes down to that quality nutrients and that quality food, like you and I have talked about, it's worth its weight in gold. I'll bring hard-boiled eggs too. That's another one. It's quality protein. There's not a lot of wasted space. Like, eggs are dense, they're small. You can tuck about a hard-boiled egg in about any pocket. If they get cracked, big deal. It's a hard-boiled egg. Obviously, you're trying not to smash them, but pound for pound, solid energy. A couple hard-boiled eggs for breakfast in the morning, bam, I'm off and going.
Wow, I like that, Dan. Yeah, I may have to incorporate some of that into my meals. Yeah, they're like, not the lightest thing, but it's so dense and solid and such great fuel. And yeah, I think all this stuff, some of it, like, it comes down to personal preference too, and building out your system. And it's just over time, you'll figure out what you like and what you don't. And, really work in the off season to try different things. Or if you have ideas, like, I'll bring bagels, and then you can get, like the jam, that the single serve jam at restaurants that you can throw in with a bagel and throw that on top of a bagel, or like peanut butter. But you can't bring a whole jar of peanut butter, so they'll make like little backpacking containers, like Nalgene makes them, and then you can put peanut butter in there and then throw that on your bagel, and boom, you've got a meal, And so really get creative and try these things out, because the meals are only like, that's only like 1/3 of what you really need to bring. So even if you're using these dehydrated meals, you need to figure out other stuff that goes with it. And it reminds me of like one of my first big backpacking trips, where I'd gained some experience, and here I was going to go backpacking, and it was a big trip. It was like a 10-day or 12-day or something that I was going to disappear in the mountains, multiple camp spots, and I was going for it. And so, I was just thinking at my house, I'm like, man, I don't eat much. Like, I think I can just do a Mountain House for dinner, and I'll do a Cliff Bar for breakfast, a Cliff Bar for lunch, and that's all I brought for 12 days or whatever. I about died on that hunt. And to this day, I cannot eat a Mountain House or a Cliff Bar ever again, because I survived off that hunt. But it was just lack of knowledge. And, like knowing how much food I'm going to need to eat on a hunt. I just figured that would be enough for me, and it was not. Like, I about starved to death out there trying to make that hunt work. And like I say, to this day, I can't have a Cliff Bar or a Mountain House. But yeah, really refine your system and get that experience. And like when you have that skill set, it's so advantageous when you're on one of these hunts.
For sure, for sure. I'm sitting over here chuckling because it resonates with me when you say, you got to bring food that you feel like eating. And oh my gosh, over the years of camera guys, and I'm busting out sardines or kippered snacks, and they look at me like I'm from Mars, and I'm like, what? I like fish. But there's even some days that, like, man, if I'm exerted, like I can't stomach a kippered snacks, I leave it at camp or whatever. But yeah, definitely you got to be in the right mood to stomach fishy fish like that.
Yeah, 100%. Well, great episode, Dan. I really enjoyed it, man. Yeah, with that, make sure you subscribe to the podcast, and the shares on social media really help. And we just appreciate all the support of making this podcast go, because we sure enjoy bringing it to you guys. So thanks again, Dan, for jumping on a morning podcast and always making yourself available. Again, I enjoyed today.
Absolutely, likewise for me. These always are fun, and yeah, I just want to say thanks for everybody that's listening. I mean, this podcast has been blowing up, and the guys that have been sharing it. Shout out to Jared Cady for sharing these on social media, and yeah, leaving those reviews on Apple or Spotify, and it helps a ton. So we sure appreciate it.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's like it just helps so much. So yeah, he's a buddy of both yours and mine, and you actually introduced him to me, and then I was able to fish with him a bit, and he's just a goer, and yeah, we sure appreciate the shares from him and everybody else. So yeah, sounds like a plan, man. We'll get together and get this thing out and released, and yeah, I'll catch up with you next week.
Sounds good. We'll see you on the next one.